Hi friends, I'm here to do my December 2024 Advents. Spoiler alerts for Passiondale Tea Advent Calendar and for Woolens and Nosh Sock Knitting Advent Calendar. My tea today, I'm actually a couple days behind. I'm drinking day 8. Today's the 9th. Only one day behind is actually not bad for me. Today's is strawberry pomegranate. I did put a touch of honey in before I even tasted it. Not really sure why. Felt like a little bit of honey today. And it's not oversweet. Totally cool with that. Eric, I'm going to pull the knitting out now. So if you need to step away, that's completely fine. You come back when you're ready. My Woolens and Nosh sock advent is getting long. It's been a couple of days since I showed it to you. This is so super bright and happy and fun, and I'm just gonna keep knitting on it. I'm at the point where I have had to start adding a little bit of gusset onto the bottom of the foot, so I'm going to need to keep an eye on that while we're chit-chatting. But I can do that while we look for the next color. I know in my last video, I kind of dove right into talking about different kinds of short row heels and this and that. And I've been thinking about that a little bit, and it actually came up to me at work the other day. I work very part-time at our fantastic little local yarn shop, and a customer came in. She is a newish knitter, pretty new knitter. She wasn't even sure if she knits tight or knits loose. She knits really tight. That's okay. We talked about what she can do about that, how to use a bigger needle, or just maybe relax a little bit before she starts knitting, do a little bit of yoga to keep from pulling that yarn so tight. But we talked a lot about socks, and it's really exciting for me to see a new knitter that's excited to knit socks, because a lot of people are super intimidated by socks, and I get that. And I've been thinking about her a lot, and thinking about the things that I said to her, and thinking about what I would say to you, what I would say in a one-sided conversation with someone who can't respond directly to me, what I would tell them about knitting socks. And I think obviously the first thing I would talk about is how much I love to knit socks, and I think they're a super cool thing to knit. They are not difficult. The first one, you will learn a lot of things about how to knit socks, but it's not super difficult. They're very small. This little kit fits 2 complete socks right in here, so you can take them anywhere. I have gotten to a point where I really only knit socks in stockinette now because it's easy and mindless for me. You can add whatever pattern you want to a sock to make it prettier or more interesting for you, or whatever you want to do. And that makes them very versatile. And one of the things I've realized is that they're almost too versatile. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make before you cast on your first sock. And I thought maybe starting today in these next few videos, we would talk about that. So if you're sock curious, welcome. And let's talk about it. And let's talk about how to get you started knitting socks, if that's what you're interested in doing. Okay, let's do it. The first thing that I want to talk about is a book. Don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to buy a book to knit socks. There are plenty of free resources, including the one you're listening to now, that can get you through knitting a sock. But this is the book that helped me become a sock knitter. This is Sensational Knitted Socks by Charlene Schurch, who is a delightful person, I would like to say. I've had the privilege of hanging out with her at a couple of spinning events, and she is a wonderful, funny, smart, incredibly talented person that I would love to meet again one day. This book, like socks, can be super intimidating, and that's okay. There's a lot of words in this. There are a lot of charts in this, and it can be a lot to look at all at once. Look at all these different patterns. But like socks, you can break this down into pieces. And what I love about this book is that's exactly what Charlene does. She takes the socks and she shows you the different parts of a sock. And she goes over each part of the sock and the different construction methods for the sock. There is a pattern for a tiny sock, which goes through all the different little parts of a sock. And you can make this small scale sock. You can make 2 of them and give them to a tiny human that has 2 feet. And then Charlene goes into different stitch patterns for the leg of the sock. So while this book has a lot of information in it, it's really well organized to help you decide how you want to knit your sock and what kind of sock you want to knit. And that's where you have to start. You start with what kind of sock you want to knit and how you want to knit it. After knitting many socks over the years, my preferred method of sock knitting is a stockinette sock, as I mentioned before. I use the magic loop method, and I knit from the toe of the sock up to the top of the sock. And how did I get to those decisions? How did I make those decisions? By knitting a lot of socks and by talking to other people who knit socks. And that's one of the reasons that I love working at the yarn shop, and I really love our Saturday morning Stitch and Bitches, because we all talk about the things that we like and the things that we don't really care for, and we learn lots of new things. And even though I've been knitting socks for years, I am still always learning things about knitting socks. We had a wonderful discussion this past weekend about sock heels, because I need to make a decision about what kind of heel I'm going to put on this sock. Even after all of these years of knitting socks, I want to do something a little different. So let's talk a little bit about that first thing. But first, squirrel, my new color, is, so we have a light green here, and then we got like almost a lemony yellow, and this is kind of partway between those two. Isn't that cool? It's not quite green, it's not quite yellow. It's kind of a limoncello, maybe a limecello. I don't know. I like it. It's very exciting. So let's talk first about method. Let's talk about how you would want to knit your socks. So you pretty much have 3 choices. You can do magic loop, which is what I'm doing here. I have a very long circular needle. I'm holding half of my stitches on the cord of the needle, I have a loop on each side, and then I have the other half of the stitches on the needle part of the circular needle. There's another circular needle method that uses 2 circular needles. Half of your stitches are on one of those short circulars, half of your stitches are on the other short circulars. I have never used that method, so I don't know a whole lot about it. And then the third method is good old double pointed needles. Generally for sock knitting, I think most people use 4 double pointed needles, 3 holding the stitches and then 1 needle to knit with. The last time I did that, when I got to the heel, because the heel, you have more stitches in the sock when you're working the heel, I did go up to 5 needles so that my stitches could be spread out a little more, so I'd be a little more comfortable knitting them. So if you have used magic loop method, maybe when you're knitting a hat or a sweater sleeve or something else in the round, I would totally give that a try. One of the things I really like about it is that I don't worry about dropping stitches. I don't worry about dropping one of my DPNs on the ground. I can do this in the car very easily. And when I'm done knitting, especially if I'm in a hurry, I can just zip all the stitches onto the cord and easy peasy, they're ready to go with no worries about the stitches going anywhere. I think the 2 circulars is similar in the same way that you can stop quickly, you can get your stitches where you need them very quickly and put them away. And you don't have a lot of worry about stitches falling off the needles, which is usually the biggest worrisome thing about using DPNs. If you're great with DPNs, by all means, use DPNs. I used them for years in the past, but when I realized the ease of the magic loop on this, I was a very quick convert on that. So that's a really good place to get started. I think I'm going to stop jabbering about that right here and give you all some time to think about that. And then when we come back for our next sock stripe, maybe we can talk about toe up and top down. I guess I'm going to need a playlist, huh? All right, well, I'll do that. You know what? I've been sitting here knitting, and I've totally thought of at least 2 more other ways that you can knit socks. Addie Turbo, whose needles I love, I'm using them for these, has a type of needle called the Addie Flip, and it's like a circular needle, but the cord on the circular needle is only like this long. So you kind of flip them back and forth to use them while you're knitting a sock. And then Addie, I think other companies are making the tiny ones too, make a teeny tiny circular needle that is this big around with teeny tiny little needles on them. They look like doll circulars or something like that, but they're super cute. I have tried to use them with very little success, but I have talked to people who absolutely love them, and those are really cool because you don't have to stop. You're just knitting in a spiral, and you don't have to do anything with your needles at all. They just keep going in a circle. My sock is getting pretty long and prettier. And I think I'll be hitting the heel turn soon. which means it's almost halfway for the sock. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colors, and there's 24 colors on this sock. So I think they'll be pretty tall once I get all 24 colors on there. I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned, like and subscribe if you choose to do that kind of thing, and I'll see you around next time. Cheers, friends. Woo, woo,